Hi there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tina. If you are new here, welcome. Today I am participating in a spring DIY challenge that's being hosted by Happily Thriving Heidi. If you were not familiar with Heidi's channel, I will put a link to her channel in the description box below. After you are done checking out this video, then definitely head on over to Heidi's channel and check out all of her DIYs. She has a vast collection of very creative and inspiring ideas. The playlist of all of those who are participating in this challenge, that will also be in my description box below. This challenge sounded like so much fun to me. I enjoy, especially lately, getting more into the thrifty DIYs. We are just going to get right into my spring DIYs. I hope you enjoy. If you do, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel, and that hit that notification bell so you know the next time I upload the video. Let's get started. For this first project, we're going to start with this Dollar Tree planter and then also some white chalk paint that I purchased off of Amazon. I just put one coat all over the outside. I didn't even do the bottom. And then I also went down a little bit, about 1.5 inches to 2 inches on the upper rim. I did not paint the handles either. You'll also need some floral foam and some of these Dollar Tree succulents. I originally tried to get the succulents that Dollar Tree has that are just the stems or the picks, but I couldn't find any except the one, so I ended up picking up these little ones that come in the planters, and they ended up working out perfectly because all you have to do is take them right out. Most of them come out and do still have a little pick on the bottom. Although this one particular one didn't actually have a pick attached to the bottom, it just was directly attached to the foam, but I managed to work around that. I started by just placing some of the picks into the foam, but that one that didn't have a hole, I just used scissors, made a little bit of a hole, and used some hot glue to kind of wedge it down into there, and that worked out just fine. Shortly into this, I realized that with just the one foam block, I didn't have enough height in the center, so I ended up adding a piece of this green floral foam. I just hot glued that down in, added some hot glue to the top of that, and then glued my white foam on top, and that gave it just the right amount of height. Next, I sliced off some pieces of the green floral foam to wedge down between the white block and the sides of the container to make it a little more stable. Next, I started working my way around. I was adding moss and hot gluing it in place, and then I would add the succulents where I thought they looked best. I purchased the moss at Dollar Tree as well. Each time I was sure I liked the positioning of one of the succulents, I would then hot glue the stem down into the foam. Then it's just a matter of arranging your succulents how you like them. I decided that as cute as this looked, I wanted to add a little something else. So I used this decorative rope, also from Dollar Tree, and just hot glued it around the upper rim of my container. I really liked how this turned out, but I still felt like it needed something else. So if you're happy with it this way, then definitely feel free to just leave it like this. I think it looked really pretty. Just for me, I kind of wanted to play around with it a little bit more. So I got this marker that I picked up at Dollar Tree along with these stencils. The marker is actually for glass, but I just like the color gray that it was, and it ended up working out just fine. And I used these letters from Dollar Tree This stencil was very flexible. Now, if I had been using paint, I would have probably had to tape it down, but because I was using marker, I was able to just kind of hold these in place while I worked my way across, forming my word. So as you can see, I made the word spring, but unfortunately I made it a little off center. So I found this heart on the other set of stencils and decided to turn it into I love spring or I heart spring. But I didn't want to fill in the entire heart. So I used the heart stencil, but stayed just at the edge of it so that I made an open heart rather than a completely filled in heart. Then, of course, I went back and added the I from the original stencils that I had used for the other lettering. And that might not have been my original intention to have it say I heart spring, but sometimes we have to improvise, and also I think it adds a nice little whimsical touch to this. Then I decided to use these rocks from Dollar Tree to put them at the base on top of the moss to kind of make my succulents stand out a little bit more. With the moss at the base, I just felt like the succulents didn't stand out enough. Also, my inspiration for this, if you saw a recent shopping trip I did with my daughter Taylor, she had purchased a really pretty long white box that was a succulent planter. And at the base of hers were these little white rocks, and it really made the succulents stand out. So I remembered that and knew that that was exactly what my planter needed. Now I think I am perfectly happy with how this turned out. I love it with the white rocks. I love it with the little detailing of the rope and the I love spring. And when it's not spring, I can just turn it around to the back side where it's blank. So for this next DIY, you're going to need some wood beads, which I purchased off of Amazon, and some yarn or twine, which I got at Dollar Tree, and then also some paint of your choice. I chose the chalk paint. I got that also off of Amazon. Then I had some wood skewers and this little box that I picked up at Dollar Tree. But if you don't have a box like this, it's fine. You can just use a shoe box. What I did was I taped part of the holes on each end and then left part open. And you'll see how I do that. The skewers and these little wooden trays are not part of the finished project. They just make it a lot easier to paint your wooden beads. So you put the skewer partway through one side and slide your beads onto the skewer, and then connect your skewer on the other side where you have a hole over there. And the only reason I use the tape to cover part of the holes is because I wanted to be able to do 2 rows of beads at a time, and I didn't want them to touch each other, and so that tape keeps the 2 skewers away from each other. I'm using this chalk paint that I purchased off of Amazon. Anything I purchased off Amazon, I will put links in the description box below. Also, like I said, instead of this little box, you could easily use a shoe box. Just cut slits on both sides and string your beads along the skewers, and then push those skewers down into those little slits in the shoebox. Doing it this way just makes painting your beads a lot easier, and then makes it so when they dry, they're not in contact with anything else. Now, while I painted the beads, I did bump them up against each other, the ones on the same skewer, but that doesn't really matter till you get to the end. Once you've completed an entire row, then you want to make sure you separate them to dry so they don't dry together. You also want to make sure that the beads on each skewer color, because they will bump into each other as you paint them. Then when each row of beads is finished being painted, then make sure you separate them to dry. I wanted a pale pink color, which I didn't have, so I ended up adding some of this red acrylic into my white chalk paint. Also, if you'll notice, my little cup, the cups that I'm using, are the planters that had originally held my succulents. They ended up being very handy for mixing paint and to hold all the beads once they were dry. I also wanted a pale purple color, which of course I didn't have, so I started playing around with color again. I used the pink that I had already made and added some of this tealish blue color. I ended up having to add some white and some red, but I finally got a very soft, subtle purple hue that I really liked. Now all my colored beads are ready to go, along with the ones that I'm going to leave natural. Now we need to begin our tassels. So to start, I took my yarn, the cotton yarn that I got from Dollar Tree, and I wrapped it around my hand 25 times. I snipped off the end and then took it off my hand, forming the circle. I took another piece of yarn, tied it up through to keep the top part together. Now I'm going to work on this red paper so you can see better. But basically you want to tie another knot just about a ½ inch down from where you put your first tie. And you want to tie a knot with that. I used string specifically that was long enough, a piece of yarn long enough, so it would hang down and blend in with the tassel. Now you take a piece of yarn that is about 12 to 18 inches long, leave one part of it hanging down with your tassel, and wrap the other part around it until you get a shorter piece that's also long enough to hang down and blend in with the tassel. Tie it to your original piece and then let both pieces hang down. Next, you need to cut the long part that hangs down, your tassel part. Cut those closed loops so that they can become the long parts of your tassel. Trim them up to make them all even. And now you've completed your first tassel, and it's time to go on to make the second one. Just make this one the same way you made your first. Now that both of your tassels are complete, you can begin stringing the beads on your garland. But first we need to attach one of the tassels to the end of the garland. So before you cut any yarn off the roll, you want to take the tip of the yarn, wrap it up with clear tape to sort of make it like the end of a shoestring. This will make it easier. Putting it through the tassel part can be a little tricky, so just be patient and take your time. Once you get it through, tie it on, then cut off that initial little string that is holding the top together. What I wish I had done but didn't think to do at the time was to make that particular string a different color. That little one that we just used temporarily to hold our yarn together. Once we snip this little piece off, then we can start deciding on a pattern for our beads and then stringing them on the garland. You can make yours as long or as short as you like. I made mine 4 feet, leaving a little extra to tie the tassel on the opposite end. Now we tape up this part of the yarn in order to be able to string the beads. I used a skewer to decide the pattern. I just stuck a piece of tape on one end and then strung some beads in different patterns through the other side. This was just to give me some sort of idea, help me to see what it would look like when it would be strung up without having to mess with the string. This was like a lot faster to me. But you can certainly skip this part altogether if you already know the pattern that you want, and you can just get started. So now we just start stringing the beads. To me, this was the fun part because you got to really see it all come together. Once you're done stringing the beads, you just put your tassel on the other end. Bring it up as close to the beads as you can. Then just tie a couple of knots to securely attach it to your garland. And then also don't forget to snip off that tiny little piece that's been holding it together since the beginning. And now your beads are complete. I think this turned out so cute. I love the natural beads, but I also like the little subtle colors. And that's why I'm so glad I made enough. I had painted enough beads in the beginning that I could make 2 different ones. And the pack from Amazon gives you enough wood beads so that I even had some left over after making both of these. And like I said, I will link all of the products that I purchased on Amazon. I will put links to those in the description box below. I think these both turned out really cute, but let me know in the comments which one is your favorite. As you can see, both of these projects were super simple and very inexpensive to make, and I hope you enjoyed it. And if you decide to make any of these or you have any questions about anything, definitely reach out to me. You can reach out to me in the comments or through my email, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel, and then hit that notification bell so you know the next time I upload a video. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support. It means a lot to me, and I hope you all are having a fabulous day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.